Most people believe that high blood pressure is a problem that only affects those who eat poorly, avoid exercise, or carry excess weight. It seems logical. If you take care of your body, stay active, and make healthy choices, then your blood pressure should remain normal. Yet every year, thousands of people who appear healthy are shocked when a routine checkup reveals elevated blood pressure. They look at the results and ask the same question: how can this be happening to me? The answer often lies in a place they never thought to look. We live in a culture that pays enormous attention to physical health while often neglecting emotional and mental strain. A person can spend an hour at the gym, prepare nutritious meals, and maintain an ideal weight, but still carry a burden of stress that silently affects every system in the body. The problem is that stress does not always feel dramatic. It is not always a major crisis or a traumatic event. More often, it is the accumulation of small pressures repeated day after day. Think about the constant demands of modern life: deadlines, financial concerns, family responsibilities, endless notifications, lack of downtime, and the pressure to keep up with expectations. Many people become so accustomed to these stressors that they stop noticing them. They tell themselves they are managing just fine because they continue functioning. But the body keeps a record of every burden, even when the mind tries to ignore it. When stress becomes chronic, the body remains in a state of alertness. It releases hormones designed to help us respond to challenges and threats. In short bursts, this response is beneficial. It sharpens focus, increases energy, and prepares us for action. The problem begins when the stress response never fully turns off. Instead of experiencing occasional moments of tension followed by recovery, many people spend weeks, months, or even years in a low-level state of physiological stress. Their heart beats a little faster. Their blood vessels remain slightly constricted. Their nervous system stays activated. Over time, what was intended as a temporary survival mechanism becomes a constant condition. This is why someone can appear healthy on the outside while important changes are occurring within. The body is working harder than it should, not because of physical exertion, but because it is responding to emotional and psychological pressure as though danger is always nearby. What makes this hidden cause especially powerful is that it often goes unnoticed. People monitor calories, steps, and workouts, but rarely measure the cost of chronic worry, unresolved tension, or mental exhaustion. Yet these invisible burdens can influence blood pressure just as surely as many of the factors we traditionally focus on. The lesson here is not that exercise and nutrition do not matter. They absolutely do. But health is larger than what we eat or how often we move. True wellness requires understanding that the mind and body are deeply connected. When one carries constant pressure, the other eventually pays the price. Sometimes the most dangerous threat to your blood pressure is not what is on your plate. It is what is weighing on your mind. As we continue exploring the hidden reasons why seemingly healthy people develop high blood pressure, we arrive at another factor that is often underestimated, ignored, or even worn as a badge of honor in today's world: poor sleep. Many people are proud of how little they sleep. They talk about late nights and early mornings as signs of productivity and dedication. Some convince themselves that 5 or 6 hours of sleep is enough because they have adapted to it. They still go to work, take care of responsibilities, exercise regularly, and maintain their daily routines. From the outside, everything appears normal, but inside the body, a different story is unfolding. Sleep is not simply a period of rest. It is one of the most important biological processes for recovery and repair. During deep sleep, the body performs critical maintenance that cannot happen efficiently while we are awake. the heart gets an opportunity to slow down. Blood vessels relax, hormones are regulated, inflammation is reduced. The nervous system shifts away from a constant state of alertness and moves toward restoration. When this process is interrupted night after night, the body begins to lose its ability to maintain balance. Many people focus on the number of hours they spend in bed, but quality matters just as much as quantity. A person may sleep for 8 hours and still wake up exhausted if their sleep is fragmented by stress, anxiety, poor breathing patterns, excessive screen exposure, or frequent awakenings. The body requires deep, restorative sleep to complete the repair work that protects cardiovascular health. Think of sleep as the body's nightly reset button. If that reset never fully happens, pressure begins to build. Hormones that regulate stress remain elevated longer than they should. The nervous system stays more active than necessary. The heart works harder. Blood vessels lose some of their natural flexibility. Over time, these changes can contribute directly to rising blood pressure. What makes this especially dangerous is that the effects accumulate gradually. There is rarely a dramatic warning sign. Instead, the body adapts, compensates, and continues functioning while hidden strain increases beneath the surface. Years later, a person receives a diagnosis of hypertension and wonders where things went wrong. The answer may not be found in their diet or exercise routine. It may be found in countless nights of insufficient recovery. I have seen people carefully count calories, track workouts, and follow every recommendation for physical fitness, yet overlook the foundation that supports all those efforts. Without quality sleep, even the healthiest habits cannot deliver their full benefits. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not wasted time. It is one of the most powerful forms of medicine the body possesses. The modern world constantly encourages us to do more, achieve more, and stay connected longer. But the body operates according to biological laws, not social expectations. It demands recovery, it requires restoration. And when we repeatedly deny it that opportunity, consequences eventually appear. Before searching for complicated explanations, sometimes it is worth asking a simple question. Is your body getting the deep recovery it needs every single night? Because the quality of your days is often determined by the quality of your nights. As we dig deeper into the hidden causes of high blood pressure, we come to something that many people have never heard about, even though it may be affecting them right now. It is called silent inflammation, and it lives up to its name because it can exist in the body for years without causing obvious symptoms. Most people associate inflammation with pain, swelling, or injury. If you twist an ankle, you can see the inflammation. If you cut your finger, you can watch the healing process unfold. But there is another type of inflammation that is much harder to detect. It does not announce itself with dramatic symptoms. It operates quietly in the background, gradually affecting tissues, organs, and blood vessels. This hidden inflammation can be triggered by many factors that have become common in modern life. Chronic stress, poor sleep, excessive consumption of highly processed foods, environmental toxins, lack of physical activity, and even long-term emotional strain can all contribute to a state of ongoing low-grade inflammation. The body remains in a constant state of defense even when there is no immediate threat. At first, these changes may seem insignificant. You feel normal. You go about your day, you continue working, exercising, and taking care of responsibilities. Nothing appears wrong. Yet inside the body, the delicate lining of the blood vessels may be experiencing continuous irritation. Healthy blood vessels are remarkably flexible. They expand and contract as needed, helping blood flow efficiently throughout the body. This flexibility allows the cardiovascular system to adapt to changing demands without placing unnecessary strain on the heart. But when inflammation persists over time, that flexibility can begin to decline. Imagine trying to push water through a hose that has become stiffer and less responsive. More pressure is required to achieve the same flow. The same principle applies inside the cardiovascular system. As blood vessels lose some of their natural elasticity, the heart must work harder to circulate blood effectively. Gradually, blood pressure begins to rise. What makes silent inflammation particularly dangerous is that it often develops slowly enough for people to accept the changes as normal aging. They notice less energy, slower recovery, occasional fatigue, or minor health concerns, but they rarely connect these experiences to inflammation. Meanwhile, the cardiovascular system continues absorbing the impact day after day. Many individuals are surprised when they discover that inflammation and blood pressure are closely connected. They assume hypertension appears suddenly, but in reality, the process may have been developing quietly for years. The body sends subtle signals long before major problems become visible. This is why true health requires looking beyond what can be seen in the mirror. A person may appear fit, maintain a healthy weight, and still have internal processes that are gradually increasing cardiovascular risk. External appearance tells only part of the story. The encouraging news is that the body possesses an incredible ability to heal when given the right conditions. Reducing chronic stress, prioritizing restorative sleep, choosing nutrient-dense foods, staying physically active, and creating healthier daily habits can help calm inflammation and support healthier blood vessels over time. The greatest dangers are often not the ones that make the most noise. They are the ones that work silently while we are not paying attention. At this point, we have already explored how chronic stress, poor sleep, and silent inflammation can contribute to high blood pressure even in people who appear healthy. But there is another hidden factor that often escapes attention because it operates beneath the surface of everyday life. It involves the body's internal communication system, our hormones and metabolic processes. Most people think of hormones only in relation to growth, aging, or mood changes. In reality, hormones influence nearly every function in the human body. They act as messengers, constantly sending instructions that help regulate energy, metabolism, blood sugar, heart function, fluid balance, and blood pressure. When these messengers are working properly, the body maintains a remarkable state of balance. But when even one part of this system becomes disrupted, the effects can spread much further than most people realize. One of the most important hormones involved in this discussion is cortisol, often called the stress hormone. Cortisol is not the enemy. In fact, it is essential for survival. It helps us wake up in the morning, respond to challenges, and maintain normal bodily functions. The problem arises when stress becomes chronic and cortisol levels remain elevated for long periods of time. Imagine a fire alarm that never stops ringing. Eventually, the constant signal begins to create problems of its own. In a similar way, persistently elevated cortisol can keep the body in a heightened state of alertness. Blood vessels may remain more constricted, the heart may work harder, and blood pressure may gradually rise. A person may not feel sick, yet their cardiovascular system is quietly experiencing additional strain every day. Another important factor involves insulin, the hormone responsible for helping cells use glucose for energy. Many people associate insulin problems only with diabetes, but metabolic changes can begin long before diabetes is ever diagnosed. When the body's response to insulin becomes less efficient, a condition known as insulin resistance may develop. This can influence fluid retention, blood vessel function, and the body's ability to regulate blood pressure effectively. What makes this especially deceptive is that insulin resistance can exist in individuals who appear healthy. They may not be overweight, they may exercise regularly, they may have no obvious warning signs, yet important metabolic changes can still be occurring beneath the surface. The thyroid gland also plays a crucial role. This small gland located in the neck helps regulate metabolism, energy production, and many cardiovascular functions. When thyroid hormones become imbalanced, whether too high or too low, blood pressure regulation can be affected. Once again, symptoms may be subtle and easily dismissed as normal fatigue, stress, or the effects of a busy lifestyle. The common thread connecting all these issues is that outward appearance does not always reflect internal health. We often judge wellness by what we can see. If someone looks fit, active, and energetic, we assume everything is functioning perfectly. But the body is far more complex than appearances suggest. True health requires understanding that countless systems are working together behind the scenes every second of every day. When those systems fall out of balance, the consequences may not become visible immediately. Yet over time, they can influence something as important as blood pressure. Sometimes the answers we seek are not found in what we can see on the outside, but in the hidden conversations taking place within the body itself. As we reach the end of this conversation, a powerful truth begins to emerge. High blood pressure is often treated as a simple numbers problem. A reading appears on a monitor, and attention immediately shifts to lowering that number. But what we have discovered is that the story is usually much deeper than that. Throughout this journey, we have explored hidden factors that can influence blood pressure even in people who appear healthy. We have seen how chronic stress can keep the body trapped in a constant state of alertness. We have learned how poor sleep quietly prevents the cardiovascular system from recovering and repairing itself. We have examined how silent inflammation can gradually damage blood vessels without obvious symptoms. And we have uncovered how hormonal and metabolic imbalances can affect blood pressure long before visible signs of illness appear. When you look at all these factors together, an important lesson becomes clear. The body is not a collection of isolated parts. It is an interconnected system where everything influences everything else. The heart does not work alone. The brain does not work alone. Hormones, blood vessels, sleep patterns, emotions, metabolism, and lifestyle habits are all connected in ways that are often invisible until problems begin to surface. This understanding changes the way we think about health. Instead of asking only, "How do I lower my blood pressure?" a more meaningful question becomes, "What is my body trying to tell me?" Sometimes elevated blood pressure is not the root problem. Sometimes it is a signal. It is the body's way of drawing attention to imbalances that have been developing quietly over time. The number itself matters, but the message behind the number may matter even more. That is why lasting improvement rarely comes from chasing quick fixes. True health is built through consistent daily choices that support the entire system. It comes from learning how to manage stress before it becomes chronic. It comes from protecting sleep as carefully as we protect our schedules. It comes from nourishing the body with foods that support healing rather than inflammation. It comes from staying physically active, maintaining meaningful relationships, and creating moments of recovery in a world that constantly demands more from us. The encouraging news is that many of these factors are within our influence. We cannot control every challenge that life presents, but we can control how we respond to them. We can create habits that strengthen the body's ability to adapt, recover, and maintain balance. Too often, people wait until a health crisis forces them to pay attention. They assume that feeling relatively well means everything is functioning properly. But health is not simply the absence of symptoms, it is the presence of balance. It is the result of countless systems working together in harmony day after day. The goal is not perfection, the goal is awareness. When we begin listening to the signals our bodies provide, we gain the opportunity to address problems before they become emergencies. We stop treating symptoms in isolation and start supporting the foundations of long-term wellness. And perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. The hidden causes of high blood pressure are not just obstacles to overcome. They are invitations to understand our health on a deeper level. When you care for the whole person, the numbers often begin to take care of themselves.